Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/bad roommates for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Jumpy Purple 7593. My friend's roommate microwaved her fish tank because it looked cold. Not my roommate, but my best friend's. I had to share this somewhere because I still don't fully believe it happened. So my friend, let's just call her Jess, lives with this guy she met through a university housing board. Everything seemed fine for the first month, until Jess came home one day to find her beta fish tank, including the fish, live plants, gravel, everything, inside the microwave. It wasn't turned on, thankfully, but when she asked him about what the actual hell he was doing, he said, "It just looked kinda cold in there. Thought I'd help it out." He genuinely believed the fish might be more comfortable if it was warmed up a little. She has a heater in the tank already, a working one. Also, who thinks microwaving an aquarium is an acceptable solution? She since moved the tank into her locked bedroom, but this is just one of the many insane things he's done. I told her she's basically living with a sitcom character written by someone who's never met real people. Anyway, just wanted to share. Should I convince her to move out before he tries to warm up her cat? Honestly, I almost wonder if their roommate has some kind of medication that just completely modifies their judgment-making ability, because I would hope that putting an entire fish tank, fish included, into the microwave is just common sense not to do that. Because that's like killing the fish, potentially destroying the microwave, and potentially burning the apartment down in one fell swoop. And that's, of course, assuming incompetence or some kind of stupidity, or medication backfiring on you and making you do stupid shit. A potentially more fucked up variation of this is that the roommate just wanted to hurt an animal and thought it would be interesting, but OP's friend thankfully got home in time before they could get the microwave going. I also have some concerns that they were able to fit a beta fish tank into a microwave, so either they have the largest microwave known to man and it's like a luxury class where you can put an entire rotisserie chicken in it comfortably, or the beta fish tank is just incredibly small and they're still working on getting a proper tank for it. Fabulous Analysis 5324. Roommate's boyfriend temporarily moved in. Never left, and now I'm being treated like a guest in my own house for asking for him to pay rent. We are 4 graduate students, late 20s, living in a 4-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. At the beginning of the lease, one of my roommates, R, asked if her boyfriend, C, could stay over for a little while. It sounded casual, and we all said yes. Well, he never left. At first, it wasn't a huge deal. C was still paying rent elsewhere and pitched in for groceries and utilities, so we let it be. But one day, he lost his job, and a few months later, he moved out of his rented place and into ours, without informing anyone. One day, he was just suddenly living with us, full-time. We're only 4 people on the lease, and now we had a 5th unofficial roommate who wasn't paying rent. So before rent was due 1 month, I gently brought it up and said, since he's not paying rent elsewhere anymore, could he contribute something to our rent? Instead of talking to me about it, R ghosted me. Later, when another roommate brought it up, R became defensive and emotional by saying that I was being condescending for mentioning this, and that he's going through a hard time, we should help him. Maybe we're not even friends if you can't support my boyfriend. Note, none of us have jobs because we're all students. She eventually said they'd pay extra starting the next month and that there should not be any more discussion about it. Surprise, they didn't pay anything extra. Shocker. Some more context. R and another roommate, M, are close, and their partners are good friends too. They all used to hang out before we moved in together. Our 4th housemate supported me on this, but now, both of us have been completely iced out. They avoid us, ignore us, and act like we don't exist. It feels like we're the outsiders in our own house. I've also learned that R has been bad-mouthing me in our wider social circles, painting me as heartless for even bringing this up. So not only am I iced out at home, but now I'm also being dragged behind my back in public. I approached this as respectfully as possible, and now I'm being treated like the villain, just for asking for basic accountability in a shared living situation. Too long didn't read, roommate's boyfriend moved in temporarily, never left, and now lives with us full-time rent-free. I politely asked for a small rent contribution, and I've been ghosted, guilt-tripped, shunned in my own house, and badmouthed in our wider social circles, and they still haven't paid a cent more, despite saying they would. I feel stuck, disrespected, and completely isolated in a space I also pay for. Any advice on how to handle this would be really appreciated. Edit 1. Our landlord is a very chill guy who essentially doesn't care as long as he gets the agreed upon rent. He doesn't want to be included and suggests to sort this out amongst ourselves. Edit 2. The lease does not have any restricting clauses for visitors and guests. Update. User feeling cat7273 and I talked to the landlord regarding us moving out, and he agreed as long as we find someone to sublet our 2 rooms. Luckily, we did find a group of 4 who were hoping to find a place together, and will be 2 people sharing each room. We did explain to them that a person here has her boyfriend over all the time, so that makes 7 people, and they somehow are okay with it. We guess they want cheaper rent by having it split amongst themselves. Anyway, here's to hoping they can give R a taste of her own medicine. For us, it's lessons learned and an exit out of this terrible situation. Thank you all for your insight and some hilarious ideas. Honestly, hopefully with the house going from 5 people to 7 people, they learn a bit of a lesson from this, because expecting your friends to essentially financially support your boyfriend on your behalf is, pretty damn entitled. Also, if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, or one of your roommates is having their partner or boyfriend or whatever begin to stay over rent-free, definitely read through your lease details before bringing it up to your landlord, because the last thing you want is to find out that by them doing this, suddenly your lease has been broken, and now you gotta find a new place to live within 30 days. Lucky for OP, their landlord was just cool like that and didn't really care as long as they got their money. It's also a damn shame because in a situation like this, the friend of OP expects that, oh, because you're my friend, you should be okay with me taking care of my boyfriend and giving him a pass because you're my friend. But OP is in the position of, I'm your friend, I think it's fucked up that you're trying to take advantage of me like that. They both have different expectations for each other in their roommate/friendship, and the only difference being is that one is inherently entitled. LII____. Roommate leaves the TV playing the same YouTube short for 10 hours a day. With sound. Whenever my roommate leaves the house, they keep the TV in their room playing with sound. Sometimes it would just be a TV show that would play on throughout the day. Sometimes it's a single YouTube short. Help. I try to not let it get to me since I wear headphones most of the time and it's not loud, but whenever I have to stay home all day, it's annoying. Also, could it contribute to my high utility bill? It's the biggest TV I've seen in my life. Probably around 2 meters diagonally. Edit, since I couldn't find the breaker panel, looked literally everywhere. Turning off the Wi-Fi also didn't work. I'm guessing it's just cable TV. Checked the door. Apparently it was just jammed. So I went in and turned the volume off. And I'm just gonna talk to them when they return. My head hurts from having to listen to it all day. If this is a common occurrence, you should probably just talk to them about it and just make sure they're aware that they're leaving the TV on when they leave, because it's very possible like they just become sound numb to like what they have on the TV because they just have it on for background noise, so they leave for the day and totally forget to turn it off. So perhaps start with a conversation, and maybe that'll also let you know if perhaps they're doing this on purpose to piss you off, because hey, who knows? But additionally, also, after 10 hours of listening to the same short, I gotta give you credit for not going fucking insane. By the sounds of it, you did try to check the door and you thought it was locked, but it was actually just jammed. But do most doors not have like the little pinprick key where you can lock it, but if it turns out it gets locked improperly, you can grab like an Allen wrench and just push it to the doorknob and it unlocks for you? Is that not like super common? Or is that just like an American thing? And for those of you who may not know what I'm talking about, in a lot of residential homes, from apartment complexes to like just regular houses, the doors will lock on one side, then on the other side there's a little hole in the doorknob where you can push a skeleton key or an Allen wrench through and it'll unlock the door. I'm just wondering if OP had access to that, and if they did, why didn't they just do that if they thought the door was locked? But turns out it was jammed, they got in, they turned the TV off. I'm surprised it lasted for 10 hours because within the first 30 minutes I would have lost my fucking mind. But yeah, that aside, definitely just have a conversation with your roommate and see if they're doing this on purpose or entirely by accident, because my guess would be it's on accident. Pretty hate machine. Roommate's mom took over our entire garage. Hello, I, 23 female, live in a 2-bedroom with my roommate, 20 female. A couple of months ago, she mentioned to me that her mom would like to store some things in our garage, but would be willing to pay rent for it. I was pleased with the idea, said it would be okay, but it didn't happen right away. It ended up happening while I was on vacation for 3 days. I returned to her mom's furniture and vehicles in our garage. I didn't think much of it until today, when I needed to put something in the garage. My roommate warned me that her mom has filled it up. It dawned on me, wasn't she going to pay rent for this? So I asked my roommate if this was still going to occur. She said that was what she was told, and she would ask her mom about it again. A couple hours after we have this exchange, I realize my roommate also hasn't paid me for our utilities for the past 1 to 2 months. I sent a request for the money with a cost breakdown. She pays it, and then replies with a paragraph about how she's uncomfortable with my guest who visits 3 times a week not paying bills. Okay, maybe 3 times a week is a lot, but it's my boyfriend of 4 years. We don't have a big social circle, so he quite literally is my only visitor. On the other hand, her boyfriend visits at least the same amount, sometimes more often, because they work together. It feels like she's maybe bringing this up since her mom is not going to pay the garage rent. Her mom already pays for a lot of her personally, so I was somewhat afraid this would happen. But still, I want my part of the garage back or I want my money. How would you approach this? 7 months left in the lease and trying to keep peaceful but hate the tension. A part of me just doesn't care anymore. Maybe I should just let go of the money and keep having my guests over. Ugh. Honestly, at this point in time, you're not going to do much without getting the tensions higher. What you should do is tell them to either give you your spot back or to get all the stuff out of the garage. Or they can instead agree upon a fixed amount in writing if they want the full garage space. And in the future, anytime you make an agreement like this, just do what you can to get it in writing because you never know what kind of bullshit they might end up pulling or, some details they could coincidentally forget that you previously discussed with them. Always keep some kind of record, whether it's digital or physical, of the agreement in place because verbal isn't really going to hold up, especially when money's involved. Verbal leaves way too much room for wiggle room. Also, considering your roommate has a history of not paying you for utilities, may not be a bad idea to reach out to the mom yourself and see if maybe the roommate's pocketing the money, because I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the mom is paying her to store the belongings there, but she's kind of banking off of the fact that you haven't asked for utilities recently, so hey, maybe you won't ask for the garage money either. Just a tinfoil hat theory though. What do you guys think? What do you think is going on here? And also, how would you approach the situation? I mean, hell, maybe some of you have actually been in a similar situation to this and might actually have some better advice or a good idea on how to approach this situation. Amanj Kennedy. Come home to find my flatmate in my bed and other weird stuff she did. To start with, she's now an ex-flatmate after stranding herself in the UK because she's so dumb, she assumed she was a New Zealand citizen after living here a few years. I posted in here about how she's the dumbest person I have ever met. And later, how I had to dispose of all her stuff, including 35 crusty sex toys, lol. So, I won't repeat all that here. Still mad about the money this dimwit owes me. Anyway, one time I came home to find her casually lying in my bed because she came in to use the tissues, my tissues, not the tissues. And she stopped for a while to pat the dog and she thought it'd be more comfy if she just hopped in bed rather than sitting on it. Get out of my bed, you weirdo. The dog doesn't even like you. You crowd her. Leave her alone. Once I couldn't find my phone charger anywhere, and I asked if she had seen it. She said, "Oh, are you looking for the phone charger? It's next to my bed." It's not the phone charger, it's my phone charger. Don't go in my fucking room. One time I had done a load of laundry and she needed to use the washing machine, so she took my wet stuff out and folded it all, still wet, and left it in a pile on the kitchen bench. Like, bitch, are you okay? Who the fuck folds wet clothes? Just put them in the laundry basket that's sitting right there, you idiot. Once I had washed my makeup brushes and put them in the hot water cupboard to dry. She saw them in there and put them all back in my room, and when I got home, she said to me in wonder, "Someone put your makeup things in the hot water cupboard." Yes, moron, me. I'm the only other person who lives here. Who did you think did it? A tidy burglar? Tell me the dumb shit your flatmates have done. And that request extends to you all in the comments section. Would love to hear some stories that you all have to share about your roommates and the hell stories you've been through. Also, I had to Google what a hot water cupboard is, not because I was confused on what it might be. I thought maybe in like the UK or New Zealand they have something where it's like a sort of cupboard that has a drain rack below it where you put things in that have recently been washed so it can drip dry. So I was like, oh, that'd be super cool. Let's see what it is. So I Google it, and it's just a cupboard with the water heater in it, right? Like, so my fanciful idea of what it could end up being, full of whimsy and mysticism, was incorrect. And it turns out they're just using the water heater cupboard for storage. Unless I am wrong about being wrong, and I am kind of right. So please let me know, because I do think it is a little weird to leave makeup stuff to dry in the hot water cupboard, unless, like, it is properly built to have things dry in there. I don't know. I'm just going to take a step back from that, because there is other behavior in this story that is just completely unhinged, from taking your roommate's phone chargers to using their tissues to being in their bed. Just, ugh. And the laundry thing does sound like that's a bit of a good intentions paving the road to hell situation, because yeah, if you're pulling your roommate's stuff out of the washer because the wash cycle ended and you gotta put your stuff in there, just put it in the hamper or a basket or something. It does seem a bit weird to fold all the clothes and stack them on the kitchen bench. Or maybe that's the norm for some people. But no matter what, the whole casually crawling into her bed while petting her dog is definitely the main focus red flag here. And not the laundry, nor the idea of what I thought a hot water cupboard might possibly be. So, yeah. Although the idea of having a cupboard where you can like store things to drip dry and it's out of the way and not just piling up like, you know, on a drying rack on the sink does sound super cool. I'm sure someone's probably thought of it and properly implemented it. Puzzle-headed Soil 5240. Roommate banned my girlfriend from coming over. Hi. I, 25 female, live with my best friend, 25 female, and her boyfriend, 29 male. I have been in a relationship with my girlfriend, 25 female, for nearly a year now. We're both in school, and have been off and on due to outside stressors. However, we are making things work. My roommate has decided that my girlfriend is no longer allowed over, not even in my private bedroom/bathroom, because it makes her uncomfortable. She's my best friend of 12 years, so I vented to her during turbulent moments in our relationship. However, I've since stopped confiding in her as I realized it creates awkward tension between them. My girlfriend doesn't come over often, maybe 2 times a week at most, and when she does, we stay in my room. We never yell or fight. We've had disagreements, but nothing that has escalated to including anyone in the household. She doesn't eat our food or use many utilities. My roommate and I have always had trouble establishing boundaries. She constantly belittles me and tries to make me appear stupid. In my opinion, I should be allowed to have my partner over. Not staying every night, but we don't have a no-guest policy, and I don't appreciate being told what to do. At this point, regardless of if I was in this relationship, I'm sick of being degraded and talked down to. So I think it's time for me to move out regardless. Mind you, her boyfriend has made homophobic, misogynistic, and outright rude comments since I've known him. He constantly tries to argue politics with me, and it's extremely frustrating. Am I in the wrong here? If your best friend of 12 years is okay with dating someone who makes homophobic and misogynistic comments towards you, then she's not your best friend of 12 years anymore. I also wonder if it's her rule that your girlfriend's not allowed, or if it's her boyfriend's rule being parroted from her mouth. In either scenario, it's very clear that she doesn't support your lifestyle, and my recommendation would be is that once the lease is up, or if you're able to get out now, just leave. Like, the only way that I think I would ever possibly be in the same boat as your roommate is if it turns out that you had confided in your roommate that your girlfriend was physically abusive to you and you were inviting her back in the house. Then maybe I could understand that reasoning. But I know for a fact that's not the case because OP has previously commented that they have never had any interaction that involved hitting, yelling, abuse, or anything that would warrant a ban. In the same comment, OP also adds that her roommate has been very opinionated of her life choices. So, yeah, I'd say get out. You most certainly are not in the wrong here. Pizza Dad 18. My roommate invited a pet into our home. You gotta understand that this all happened when I was like 21, 22. I'd handle all of this very differently now. Also, this story unfortunately requires a lot of context and is very long, so buckle in. In high school, I was involved heavily in both theater and the anime club. I was friends with most people in both clubs, which had no crossover except for my friend, who I will refer to as V. V and I weren't super close initially since I was a junior and they were a freshman, but we spent a lot of time together, shared a class or two, and had many mutual friends. They were nice, a bit awkward, and funny. We always had a blast together. By the end of junior year, we had gone to a few anime conventions. My senior year, they had asked me to prom after my date had canceled on me weeks before. When they got really sick later that same year, I visited them in the hospital. So, by the end of my high school career, I'd consider them one of my closest friends. But, over time, we lost contact. Fast forward 4 years. Now, I'm an adult living with my girlfriend. We'd had a bumpy year, death in the family, lots of moving, bit of a mental breakdown on both of our ends, but since my folks planned on moving out of state, and my girlfriend's families weren't ideal to live with, we planned to move into our own place. We got a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom place later that summer. One of the bedrooms was meant for my things since I'm a collector, but unfortunately, I lost my job not long before moving. My girlfriend is in education, so clearly we needed to figure something out sooner than later. During that summer, my partner and I went to our local Comic-Con, which is where I ran into V again. The three of us sort of hit it off over the next few months, more so my partner and V. V helped her dye her hair. We saw movies together, and I invited V to my annual Friendsgiving, which I hold since some of my friends' families are out of state, much like myself. At Friendsgiving, V arrives first while my partner is gone. We begin talking, and they tell me that their current living situation isn't fully stable. I can sort of tell where this is going, and we were in a position of needing a roommate. I call my partner, and long story short, V moves in just a few weeks later, and the process went great. We met their family, helped them clean and move in. The only thing is that my partner and V wanted V on the lease to keep everything above board. This was odd to me, as my family had always let people stay with them or move in without that process, but I went along with it, as long as it made them feel better, and everything was great. Ideal, really. Until 1 week later, V asked if they could invite their boyfriend over. Now, we were fine with this. We thought, it's your place too, no need to ask. They had initially seemed nervous to mention him, and eventually, they told us it was because of their age difference. V was 21, and their boyfriend K was 39. We didn't outwardly judge at all. Not our horses, not our race, we told ourselves. K comes over and is very nice. He makes a very good first impression. They clearly are a bit too into PDA, not full-on snogging, but lots of cuddling and mushy speak. Plus, V always referred to K by some gross nickname. I don't think they ever said his real name once. K would come over a bit more as time went on. V told us that he's worked just down the street for night shifts and would crash here temporarily before making the drive home. My partner and I were fine with that. Except me and my partner eventually realized that K would be here long after his shifts were over, even on his off days. For context, V was looking for work as well and was temporarily unable to pay for the month of December while she was starting this new job. Me and my partner were doing everything we could to pay rent, selling things, Amazon Flex, DoorDash, etc. We eventually figure out that V and K are continuously eating our food without our knowledge, and K is even showering here. So we asked K for a portion of rent, $250. We were given $150, which upsetted my partner, who was now the accidental breadwinner for a full-grown NB and a man who could be as old as any of our fathers. By Christmas, we can't figure out a way to get K out of here. Both of us were uncomfortable as we didn't know who this guy is or if he's a violent person at all. We'd never been in any situation like this at all. V just really wants him around 24/7. He even stayed here when V went back home temporarily for the holidays, while some of my family flew down as a surprise. I got to see my toddler nieces and nephew for the first time in a while. K did awkwardly try to say hi to the kids as well as my sister and mother, who instantly didn't like him. All things considered, it was still a great Christmas. By the time New Year's Eve came around, it was more like two couples awkwardly cohabitating, which is not what we signed up for. V felt like we didn't like K for his age, when we were upset with both of them for their lack of consideration and behavior. There had been little issues like K joking during Mario Kart that if my partner had stopped running her mouth, she'd do better, which resulted in that fun night being cut short. The continuous eating of the food I'd prepared for my partner's lunches without asking, playing my PS5 without asking, etc. On New Year's Eve, I tried to hold another party, inviting my friends over, only for V and K to invite them to smoke in their room. I'm an asthmatic. A couple days later, on January 3rd, V stopped me and my partner on the way to my dentist appointment, saying that K wants to talk to us. He sits us down in the living room, and after a little encouragement from V and a bit of a sob story, asks to move in. But before he can, he tells us that he's a sex offender, only telling us since the cops might show up to do a random check. An entire month passed with this guy living here, and what's worse is that V, someone I'd considered a good friend, withheld this from me. I immediately began to fear telling my family, pissed that I put them in that situation. I had to tell my friends, one of which is a single mother who very well could have had custody of her child that New Year's Eve. We tell V and K, sure, not fully thinking as both of us were in complete shock, as the two of them celebrate in the living room. We leave screaming our heads off. That's why K went by a nickname. We were livid. I called my mom, my partner called her mother, and we essentially had a 4-person call trying to figure out what to do. Then, I remembered that one time, K gave me his credit card to buy ingredients to make dinner. I type in his name into the home state sex registry, and he is in fact a sex offender. Without getting into the disgusting details, he was 19 at the time and the victim was only 13. My partner couldn't fathom since the kids she worked with at the time were around the same age. This is when we realized that V and K are either evil or dumb. No apartment complex will let a pedophile live there. We'll all be kicked out. My partner could lose her job. We figured this is why K was staying here, to get us used to the idea of him being around. We eventually returned that night, our hearts beating out of our chest. K had already moved some of his stuff into the apartment, and we tell K that he had to take his things and leave that night. I initially told V that they had to leave too, until later I realized that I couldn't do that. Legally, this was just as much their place as it was ours, and we couldn't risk breaking the lease or moving out, both due to finances as well as my partner's family not having any space. Two things both V and K knew. K tried to convince us, saying that he and the victim are on good terms, and that he'd asked V not to say anything. But he finally left, and we told V he was never allowed back in the apartment. For that whole week, V was apologetic and sad, and I was completely unsure if I could ever gain trust in her. But that eventually morphed over the next 5 months. Her thankfulness for not kicking them out turned into constant accusations that we're going to lock them out, regardless of never-ending reassurance that we wouldn't do that, because we don't want to, and legally, we can't. That didn't stop V. They eventually began to nitpick at little things, constantly calling house meetings about chores, which V never did any. They'd complain about the trash not being taken out. When I asked why they didn't take it out, they said, "I thought that was your job." As if I got trash man fucking stamped on my forehead. Lots of petty things. The frustrating parts would be those little moments of clarity, when me and V would make small talk and I'd be able to see glimpses of our former friendship, only to quickly remember the sea of issues preventing that ever being a possibility again. At this point, both me and my partner just wanted a peaceful home life more than anything else, which became impossible when V began to be verbally rude to my partner in a way that they clearly didn't feel comfortable doing to me. I'm a 6'4" large black male, and both my partner and V are white, female presenting, so I was constantly colored as the aggressor in some situations, despite constantly trying to keep a calm tone. V thought they could take advantage of my partner's kindness. Our attempts to reach out to V stopped there. From there on, it started and stopped at polite hellos and goodbyes. V said that I have a dark presence over the apartment, whatever the fuck that means. They would visit K a lot more often than usual, sometimes spending days. V kept asking to invite K over, even though we set a clear boundary. V eventually told us we were paranoid and judging their relationship. Without trying to sound like I'm discrediting them or downplaying their problems, V's mental state was actually slipping. By June, they began to write threads of complaints on post-it notes and leave them on the fridge. The worst of which, and the last time we've ever had a real conversation, was when V accused me and my partner for overcharging them for rent and pocketing the money. Y'all, they had the biggest room. the biggest bathroom, the biggest closet, while me and my partner were crammed into the tiny main bedroom. Rent was $2,100, but could fluctuate to $2,200 during summer months. We charged V a flat $700, which they agreed to before moving in. After a very long text thread including us walking V through the itemized ledger we're given every month by our apartment complex, V eventually decided to essentially move out. From June of 2023 to now, I've had no clue where they're staying, and I've had zero contact with them outside of communication on when they come over to get some of their stuff. I'm telling this story because today they're finally officially moved out. People, if you learn one thing, run background checks on everyone who enters your home, and time doesn't mean you know someone. My biggest concern would be that V was groomed by K in this scenario. Overall, background checks are extremely important. I don't think V was malicious, just stupid. Well, until the end. I do think V was getting malicious near the end of it. But I do think K knew exactly what he was doing every step of the way, in regards to him trying to find housing, essentially. While OP certainly made a quick blunder in the first moment by saying sure to this revelation, just out of pure shock, afterward they certainly made every right choice along the way they potentially could have made. Just a messy situation, and V put a lot of people's housing at risk for not understanding that K is just fucking lying. Just overall. And I really don't want to harp too much on this because of how much it infuriates me, but that side comment of, oh, don't worry, myself and the victim are on good terms. Yeah, bull fucking shit. It's hard for me not to believe that V wasn't spoon-fed a bunch of lies and groomed, and who knows how early that relationship started. Just, ugh. Not acceptable in any way. Fucking revolting. Glad OP has the house to himself though, and hopefully maybe V will eventually snap out of it, but either way, those are actions she made as an adult, and even if she does snap out of it and if it clicks, she still has to take accountability for her actions and the fact that she did try to bring a pedophile into OP's home and put everyone's housing at risk. Ugh. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.